We're about 4 hours south down here in Dothan, Alabama. S19750 car. This one's already taken apart, which for me is actually easier. It's less work I gotta do, but I mean, it's, you know, I actually have new carpet I could put in here out of that blue car. Dude, I got the full leather interior I may put in here. I don't know. But yeah, overall, I mean, it's a pretty clean car. It's just missing the, like that. I think that's the only thing it's really missing on the whole thing. Borla exhaust. I got a set of like max speeding rod coilovers with it. It had a McLeod twin disc clutch. Of course, here's Boss 302 manifold, the Coyote. It's a spun rod bearing, but I got a new crank, new bearings, everything with it. So more or less, I have everything in the bed of the truck to get this thing running. So this will, I'll start like another playlist on YouTube for this one, more or less. And that's where you can start like finding, you know, if every car I do, we'll kind of set up on a playlist, I guess. Depending, I mean, if I do like one video, then no, it may not go in a playlist. But for anything that's multiple videos, or I do like a full build or whatnot, it'll just go in a playlist. So, but this is just going to be another fix and flip car. It'll be for sale in a few weeks. Hell, it may even be sold by the time y'all see this video. But I'll just keep you updated on what I do on it and whatnot. So today, I ended up getting a call from a guy I know locally who does some car work. More or less, he had this Subaru BRZ that he's had for a while. Guy had bought short block for it. Long story short, I don't know the backstory. I don't know what happened. Engine's halfway unhooked, ready to come out of the car. He said he was getting ready to go back on the road to work or something. Long story short, I've been in contact with the owner. I've advised him to go ahead and order, at least, you know, in my opinion, for a Subaru engine, to go ahead and, if he's going to put this kind of money in a short block, the car's not boosted. You know, the guy didn't even sound too sure if he was going to boost it, but he's got a $5,000 short block sitting here. So more or less, I told him, I said, look, dude, you're going to put this kind of money in it, you need to go ahead and do head studs, and we're going to do upgraded head gaskets. But yeah, I literally just picked the car up just like this. Brand new short block, straight from IAG, open deck, which, you know, non-boosted, fuck, should be fine. But like, again, with this kind of engine, at some point, like in my opinion, I would boost the damn thing. So you guys are just gonna have to get used to me not having a shirt on in summer, because it's, dude, it's 100. Heat index here is over 100 this week. I'm in a 30 by 30 metal building. I don't have my temp gun down here. I'd hit it. A lot of times that roof will be 140, 150. Who knows on it? Like, this is the hottest week of the summer so far. Maybe 160 up there. I have shot the cars in here, and like a car that's just sitting in here, like the metal will be, you know, 102. So it's pretty damn hot in here. Anyways, so what I've kind of been working on, got this car on the rack. Haven't done shit to it yet. I got its engine on the stand. It did come with a good crank, which I have there. It also came with a set of Clevite rod bearings, pulling the engine all the way apart. So I'm going to go ahead and get a set of main bearings for it. Nothing too crazy. I mean, it's out. Might as well, possibly, more than likely, go ahead and do oil pump, gears, crank, sprocket, just because. I do tend to like refresh my engines. I don't really throw anything in there, just half-ass. This is a rebuildable engine, which supposedly only had a tick. This is a, like, it's got a good, I bought a good, like a guaranteed good low mile short block for it. All brand new timing, billet pump, gears, crank, sprocket. Aside from that, it's a stock Gen 1 with GT500 valve covers, all new gaskets. That is actually the engine for the California Special. You know, I am going to finish this black car first, but with the amount of money I have in that engine, I don't want to use it for this car. I can fix this one cheaper. So just so numbers add up in my head, I paid less for this car than I did that car, but that was only because that car came with an engine, trans, head. I mean, it's ready to go back together with all the parts. It just needs put back together, which for me is no big deal. So, but if you kind of want to take a look around, it's Mustang shit everywhere. I got Coyote short block F-150 right there. That's good. Coyote short block spun rod bearing. 2.3 EcoBoost Trans, Gen 2 MT82 TR3150, Gen 1 MT82, 2.0 EcoBoost, Coyote, and another Coyote. And then a little Subaru thing sitting there. Yeah, more or less, I think it's pretty easy to see that this is definitely a Ford Mustang shop at this point. I also have another set of another EcoBoost up top that I've put together. So I'll update you guys later as I get started on this other thing and just go from there. All right, so this morning I came out here and I already had the Coyote on the stand. I got it on the stand yesterday, and more or less I've gone ahead and torn it all down. Gonna go ahead and probably more than likely order a billet crank sprocket and oil pump gears for it. About to drop the cams and the heads off at the machine shop today. I already have bearings for it, so I'm gonna clean the block up, put it back together with no bearings, and measure for clearances. It's still got home marks and stuff in it, so the block looks good. So I'm just gonna hit it with just a quick home here. There's no reason to send it to the machine shop. So that's where I'm at on that. It'll just be a matter of ordering a couple parts I need and getting stuff back from machine work, or having the machine work done, and it'll be ready to go together for the black car. I've already, like I said yesterday, I already got the engine together for the silver car, but I'm waiting on title stuff with it. So what I've decided to do, I already have the title of the black car. The black car is going to be the first one put together and sold. So after I get back from the machine shop today, I'm going to pull the California Special out, and the RZ is going to go in. The owner went ahead and sent me the money to go ahead and order studs, upgraded head gaskets, and an OEM gaskets kit, more or less. So the next thing I need to do on it is go ahead and get the engine out, pull the heads off. That way all that can go to the machine shop, which generally the local machine shop, I've dealt with him a lot, so he pretty much gets me like a one-day turnaround on heads and stuff. So it's not like most people that are waiting weeks to have work done. I can usually get stuff turned around pretty quick. So I'm going to get the Coyote stuff dropped off today, come back, hopefully have the motor out of that, and then get the FA20 stuff dropped off tomorrow, which has got a brand new short block, so there's no reason to have any work done on that. So yeah, got a lot going on. Which is not a bad thing, especially not when it pays money, more or less. So the Mustangs are mine. That's how I make the majority of my living now. But doing stuff like this in between definitely helps, and plus it's cool. The more I do it, the more I realize, like, usually I'm very modest, and I'm still modest, but I'm sorry, like, there's nobody within 200, 250 miles of me that would have even taken that car in the shape it's in, much less be able to put it back together. So that's just the stuff I'm looking to do. Is everybody wants a little quick, easy, and sorry, I keep looking at myself on the camera, make sure I'm in view, but everybody wants like the little quick, easy brake jobs, this and that. Not me. I really only take big jobs. If it's, putting engines in, building engines, roll cages, that kind of stuff. I like to do the stuff no one else does. Because these people, like, why scrap a car because nobody will fix it type deal. But on top of that is, instead of competing at lower level prices, which I'm $100 an hour. Almost every shop I've called in the area are $105 to $199. So I'm still, cheaper than everyone. But at the same time, I do earn pretty decent, especially to be at home. I don't have a lot of overhead. So I can pass the savings on to the people who use me, and they still get quality work done by someone who knows, what they're doing. So it ends up being a win-win for everyone. But yeah, more or less, I'll just keep updating you guys as I go. Some of the bigger stuff, which is still zoomed in, some of the bigger stuff that came in, it's still over there. But everything that comes out of the engine, it's over here. I don't need to label it. The cams are going to go back in the heads for go to the machine shop. It's going to have new timing. And two, there's part numbers on the cams. Get my cams mixed up once. And luckily, Ford's made it almost impossible to put this stuff back together wrong, which is pretty cool. It's also cool how interchangeable a lot of things are with their cars. Hence, I guess, the modular name. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get this stuff ready to go to the machine shop, and I'll talk to you guys later. Just a new day. I don't really remember what all I explained to you guys in the last video about this car, but more or less, this is how this Subaru showed up to me. Last guy had it 6 months, was supposedly putting that short block in it. I don't know if he sourced another engine to stick in here, because this one has direct injectors in it, but there's also, you know, the other direct injectors are still hooked up, where they just pull the injectors out instead of unhooking the quick connect. So, I mean, all just speculation. I don't really know. But more or less, yesterday I went ahead and had the customer come over to the shop. And I kind of went over everything with him, let him know, hey dude, like, this car's been down for a year and a half, and when I drained it, I mean, it was just full of coolant. So, and apparently I didn't get this from the last guy that worked on it, but the owner told me the car was rod knocked, you know, which would explain the metal in the oil pan. So, like, hopefully the heads are still good. I mean, a piece of piston or something broke off and beat up against the head. You know, it's no big deal, just get a used head. But like I told him, I said, look, man, I mean, I know you're under the impression this engine, well, this short block was already in this car. I said, dude, A, no. B, that's just a short block. I said, what, like, as of now, I don't even know what we're going to get into when I tear this thing down. But needless to say, he informed me that he couldn't find anybody in the, you know, like legit, I'd say legit, to work on this thing originally. So I guess that's kind of why it ended up where it did. I have no knowledge of the previous guy that worked on it as far as his ability to work on cars. I knew him as a kid and stuff, you know, seemed like a good guy, but I can't speak to his mechanical aptitude, but I can speak to mine. So more or less, like I told the customer, I said, look, man, I said, like, this, just be glad it ended up here. And I hate to, you know, say that. I personally don't know anybody that would or even could take this around here anyway. There might be some people that claim they can, but I've never. I mean, if they can, why aren't they doing it? Is the way I look at it. I don't know. It just starts to get frustrating. People who have good names, you know, or even big names, and this has nothing to do with anyone who's touched this car. I mean, I talked to a guy in Walmart today who there's a local used car lot who sells, you know, they have a good reputation selling good cars, and they have a mechanic shop there, and he said he's been ripped off by them twice. So needless to say, I picked up his business, have an AC job coming in from him. It's just the more I talk to people, the more I see, like, it doesn't matter if it's a dealership, it doesn't matter if they're charging $10 or $200 an hour. You know, most people that claim they can do this stuff cannot do it. You know, like, you hear people all the time like, oh, well, I got into this project, don't have time to finish. And in my experience, it's no, you got in over your head and you don't know what you're doing. So with that said, keep in mind, a lot of times, especially when it comes to car work, usually if you're paying up front, they're going to rip you off. I don't charge labor up front. Now, yeah, like this guy, he did give me a deposit to order parts with. But you know, if somebody's telling you to send money Cash App to work on their car, you're probably not going to get that back. So, I told him he could use PayPal Business, whatever. I'm cool with any of that. I have to have money to order parts to get his stuff together. I said, but, you know, he doesn't have to worry about paying me till it's done. I said, now he won't get his car back until I'm paid, of course. But, you know, that's just one of those things. It just is what it is. That's as fair as I can be to people. And of course, I do things to the best of my ability. If something needs replaced, we'll replace it. And if it doesn't need replaced, then I won't replace it. It just is what it is. People can argue with me till the cows come home about this stuff, but I've been putting engines together and cars together for too long that I mean, I don't argue with people anymore. I know what I know. I don't know what you know. Unless you can prove to me you know it, I don't believe you. So needless to say, sorry to get off on a tangent there. It's just starting to get frustrated with people that like to claim they can do shit and have no business touching the shit. And that actually, you know, it isn't even coming from this car. It's just talking to people. I I mean, that even goes for your doctor. I mean, these days, hell, I don't even know. Sometimes when I go to like a private doctor, I'm like, you know, does this guy like really know what he's doing, or is he faking it till he makes it? Something I didn't know until I started my business and started dealing with people. And sorry, I'm walking around. It's just I don't like standing still. Is they can have the biggest, prettiest signs, all this crap, and it doesn't mean that they're being truthful or even that knowledgeable. I say that. I mean, they might be a little bit knowledgeable, but most people cannot deliver on what they say they can do, from my experience. And I've seen it so much now that, like, for me, it is starting to become a pain point. It's also why I charge $100 an hour, which is actually less than most shops around here, but I don't have much overhead. This 30 by 30 is at my house. I got a 2% interest rate on a house that my house payment's $800. My power bill for my shop's $30. So, like, I have no overhead. So just about, everything for me is pure profit. So there's no reason for me to try to rake people's eyeballs out. But at the same time, I do better buying and selling, fixing my own cars. So for me to put one of those cars aside with the California Special out there, you're going to have to pay my price. It just is what it is. Now, when it leaves here, it'll be right. And from my experience, that's all people want. Like this guy, man, he's already spent, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 on this car between the engine, and I guess paying the last guy some money. And he's probably looking at another $3,000 at least in it. So this kind of stuff becomes very expensive very quick, even when dealing with somebody that knows what they're doing. It becomes even more expensive when you're paying people that don't know what they're doing. Especially if you're paying them up front, because you're probably not going to get that money back, and you're not going to get a running car. So just be aware. Most of the time, people asking for money up front, stuff like that, they're not really legit, unless they have a track record of doing stuff and doing it right. Also a track record of. And what I mean by that up front, there are going to be somebody like me is not going to cover $1,000 or $1,500 worth of parts for this car for you. I just can't. I can't do it. I'm not huge yet. I'm working towards it, build my reputation. I think I've decided just to add on to my home shop here, just for the sake of I'm not really looking to rent. There's not much to rent around here anyway, but I'd prefer to buy or build a bigger shop at some point. So for me, it may just make the most sense to add another bay or two on here. And I'll just keep doing what I'm doing from here. So, but yeah, I'll quit ranting on this. I got to get this engine out, and I'll update you guys once I get it out. Maybe put it on a time lapse or something on the stand while we tear it down, see what's going on with it. Appreciate you listening and watching. Hopefully I'll bring you some more, exciting content. For now, I got a lot of builds going on, between my stuff, customer cars, so that's what it's going to be for a while. Drifting's taking a back seat. To me, just to go to the track and, drift for fun is not fun anymore. It's more of a headache because of the, just the cost of tires and getting there just to go. I want to compete if I'm going to spend the money. So when I come back, it'll be with a car that's competitive, and it'll be, I'll be in a spot where I'll be able to run entire series. I'm not looking to run one or two here or there. So, just keep in mind, or just, keep patient. I'm coming back. The builds I plan on doing are hopefully for me anyway, next level, hopefully cooler than, I don't know. I just hope that, everybody enjoys what I'm doing. I certainly do. So, I appreciate it, and talk to you later. All right. So I know I said I might time lapse that, but, I don't know. I'm in a hurry. So more or less, got it all tore down. So it looks like the blown head gasket was a result of a busted piston. Oh, also where the metal in the oil pan's coming from. So there you go. That piston right there. Yeah, something got in there and it got beat up. What's funny though is the head's not beat up. Which is good. It's not a bad thing, but I don't know. I don't really know what happened to this car before it got here. I've speculated a couple things, but really don't know. So anyway, long story short, it is tore apart, 100% all the way down. Heads are about to go to the machine shop. I need to go order some head studs and a gasket kit, stuff like that. So really, I'm pretty much done for today. I'm going to go ahead and get that stuff ordered and probably go ahead and drop these heads off at the machine shop, and it'll just be a matter of throwing this thing back together. For the record, that was about 4 hours. I pulled the entire engine, tore it down about 4 hours. Not bad. So, especially for a car I've never touched a Subaru in my fucking life. Know shit about them. But to me, at this point, cars are just nuts and bolts. I mean, dude, somebody could pull up in a Lambo and say, "Hey, dude, nobody will touch it." Well, you, like, yeah, I'd pull it apart, build the motor. At this point, it doesn't even matter to me anymore. So yeah, there that is. I'm sure the next clip or whatever will be getting the stuff back and maybe assembling it or whatnot. So I'll talk to you guys then. All right, so it's been a few days. I'm still waiting. I've got pretty much everything I needed for the Coyote build and the Subaru build, but I'm still waiting on the machine shop, which has kind of put me at a standstill because both lifts are occupied with 2 cars that need engines built. I'm still waiting on the title for that one, but I mean, I could have it together and running. I have everything here for it. So yesterday about noon, I had a GT 500 here that I did some work on. I mean, I didn't really have anything left to do, and I'm not one to really sit around. So this morning I got up and was kind of wondering, what I could do. So I think what I'm going to do is work on. I've been wanting to get this bus out of my front yard. The only reason I haven't done it is because once I move it, like, I don't plan on touching it for who knows how long. So I wanted to make sure I could get the engine and trans out now, and then worry about moving it once. Because for the most part, my plan is I'll definitely put it behind my shop, which I'm kind of limited on room back there. But I'm gonna put it back there and just go ahead and cut the entire body off of it over time. Excuse me. Mainly because, I mean, the chassis is a good chassis. It's usable. It also makes it more manageable, especially, if I end up using or selling the axles, etc. The body panels, I'll pull those off separate. But more or less the cab, it's junk from, the way they've cut it to put the bus body in. I mean, I don't care about any of that. So, yeah. So I'm gonna work on getting this engine and trans out today. It'd be nice if the engine sold, but to be honest, I don't know, I'm getting more interested in using it in something. I'm not really to the point, like, I want to build a full truck for me to keep, but like, I'd like to have a excursion. I love mine, but I do prefer the newer diesels and stuff. Another option for me is like an F100 with this drivetrain. Now that would be something I may consider because it's something I could sell at the end. I like doing this stuff to progress my skills, and kind of showcase what I can do. But at the end of the day, it's got to make sense monetarily since, I do work for myself 100%. So if I were keeping everything I did, it just wouldn't work. And right now I've had this bus for 3 or 4 months, and I've probably made a couple $100 back off of it. Then I used the radiator in my truck. So, I mean, that's good for about $1,000. I could say, as far as taking out of the cost, which puts me into it for so that means like I got $2,800 in that drivetrain. I found a company that said that they have a tuner that, of course, it tunes the diesel, but it also could delete the security. So if that's the case, I am going to look into that. I've also kind of just considered, I mean, I didn't really want to mess with this harness because it is for a bus and all that, but I mean, I guess I could just buy like a first gen body harness from like a truck like mine, and that would kind of get me around all the worrying about security shit. But at the end of the day, I mean, the truck, it didn't come with DPF. It didn't come with it didn't come with DPF, and I've already pulled the EGR cooler, because at the end of the day, like, that kind of, like, that's what kills these engines super early. And I mean, until the government's buying my vehicles for me, I'll run them however the fuck I please. Because like, I'm not going to buy a new truck for 80, 90, 100 grand. I know this isn't a new one, but I'm just saying. And then running it with all the emissions crap on it, which does nothing but gum up the intake, the valves, and over time, like, it really just takes a toll on the engine. So, I'm not spending that kind of money and then having to repair my truck before it hits 200. 1,000 miles. Like, it's just, I'm not doing that. I think it's stupid. So yeah, I'm open to discussion on that to the government. You want to buy me a new truck every time mine fails, I'll run whatever damn shit you want me to on it. Till then, you fuck off. But yeah, I'm gonna quit ranting on that subject before I get myself in trouble. So I'm gonna get started on pulling this. I've been kind of putting it off because it doesn't seem like it's gonna be too fun. Of course, if it was like my truck, I just pull it in the shop and pull the cab, but the bus is too big. So yeah, let me quit rambling and get on with this. All right, so what I've done is I'm scrapping the body anyway, so I've gone ahead and cut this side out, the starter, so I could get to the flywheel bolts, etc. Well, I've never worked on a Power Stroke, so I got to here and then realized you're not gonna be able to turn the crank. So I looked. Yeah, of course, there's a tool. It's like 70, 80 bucks, and it's less about the money and more about I want to get as much done today as I can, because I'm just waiting on stuff for these builds, and if it comes in, then I'm done with this. So there's 4 holes. I just used 2 of them, welded a 3/16 socket to that plate, and seems to turn over just fine. So shouldn't have any issues getting the flywheel bolts out. Hopefully the next hour or so I'm coming out with the engine. Who knows what else I'll run into. I'm out of Sawzall blades, so I may have to run and get some. But I'll just update you guys as I get closer to getting it out. So I said I'd update you guys in a bit on the engine. Well, there it is. Pulled it without the trans. Since I cut the cab like that, I could have pulled it with the trans, but I'd already undone it. Had a massive oil leak. As soon as I undid the trans, like, it dumped a ton of oil. I don't know if it's the rear main seal or the upper oil pan, but it doesn't really matter. This thing is fucking massive. Like, zooming out like this just isn't going to do it justice. Probably one of the sketchier things I've done in a while. Used my Harbor Freight engine hoist, old trusty thing, and strapped it to my truck. So it actually went, shit, pretty easy. It sunk in the ground a little bit, and I just used my floor jack to put under that leg to keep it from tilting anymore. And hell, once the feet got on once the feet got on the concrete, there was no big deal. It pulled it right off. So I think for now what I'm gonna do is possibly just stick it in the bed of my truck and back it up to my garage and get it up there that way, because I'm not gonna pull it up the hill with the engine hoist and all that. But yeah, shit, the hard part's out of the way. So now I just gotta figure out what I'm gonna do with it. I may just list it for sale, see what happens. It's not, it still doesn't sell in the next few months, then I may end up, if I can find a decent F100 or something to put it in, I may look at doing that. Either way, I'll keep you guys updated on it. So a few months of the bus sitting in my front yard. Hopefully it'll I'll be able to move it pretty soon, because that's really all I was waiting on, was getting the engine and trans out, and I was going to stick it somewhere. Go ahead and scrap most of what I've already cut off of it. So that's just a short little update for the video, and I'll update you guys once I kind of get settled with everything. There's not much else to do now other than to get the engine stored somewhere. Alright, so a couple weeks ago I ended up getting a new thing of little diamond friction washers for the timing gear on the EcoBoost here. So what I'm getting ready to do now is go ahead and install the cams and go ahead and get this thing timed. So one little thing that I'm gonna try, I don't have a whole lot of money in this motor, and I've got 2 more down there if something goes wrong, but I think it's worth trying. So these engines don't come with a keyed crankshaft. More or less, there's those little friction washers I just showed you. They're responsible for basically holding the timing gear in place with the torque of the crank balancer bolt. You start looking into it a little bit, it seems like people do start having issues with that with higher horsepower builds. This one's not going to be anything too crazy, but it is going to get beat on in this here. And hopefully, the more I think about it, I have almost everything I need to get this clutch. So I may go ahead and get back on this a little bit while I'm, waiting on stuff. But more or less, I've been kind of looking at some 6.7 Power Stroke build stuff, mainly because I have that engine down there. And what a couple of those guys, sorry, I just pulled my toolbox up the hill. I'm not in terrible shape either, but that thing's heavy and it's a big hill. So anyways, what they're doing with these 6.7 Power Strokes is they're TIG welding the crank gear to the crankshaft to keep it from having kind of a similar issue, even though those are keyed, I think. So I'm going, once I get this timed, I'm actually going to TIG weld the crank gear to the crankshaft in this and see if that's a feasible fix, more or less, for these engines, and save the, what, 800,000 bucks on a factory crank and crank gear and what's it, harmonic balancer that you can order from some of these companies where all they're doing is adding a keyway to it. So that's going to be what I try. Another option would be to get everything kind of lined up and marked and have a machine shop cut a keyway in it. But I can TIG weld it on myself here and don't have to worry about paying anybody anything. So that's the direction I'm going to go with this. I think it'll work fine. But yeah, this still just waiting on the machine shop to call me about my heads and stuff on the 2 builds going on down there. I've got the 6.7 Power Stroke in there, and I really want to like start taking it apart, because if I keep it, I'm going to go ahead and go through it, do new valves and everything, because it is a first gen. But I need to put that off until, because I got 2 engines tore apart down there, and then I've got this engine tore apart up here. So while those are waiting, I'm gonna go ahead and finish up what I can on this EcoBoost. Hell, maybe, well, I don't know, because like I do kind of got to put it in from the bottom. And I was gonna say maybe at some point I can go ahead and bolt the engine and trans in here, just have like it'll just be stored in there or whatnot. But yeah, I'll update you guys. You know, whatever I choose to do. Alright, so I got the cams torqued down, got the rear tool put in. Then you need the engine pretty much at TDC, which I had, and I was just a tiny bit off of once you install this, the crank sits right up against that and it can't move. So more or less here I'm gonna go ahead and install the chains and all that. Actually, I'm probably gonna put the crank gear in and get it welded first. I may do that first. I don't know. I may go ahead and put the chains on and stuff and just look at it and see. But yeah, I'm like 99% sure I'm gonna weld that thing on there and just be done with that. So it'll more or less it'll be good then. I have a 2.0 EcoBoost down there. Sorry, I just trying to think what all I want to do, but I got a 2.0 EcoBoost down there that I did plan to build to make more power at some point for this car. So at the end of the day, if this turns out to work pretty well, yeah, it may present a little bit of problems as far as if you ever need to take it apart. I really don't know. I doubt it will though, because there's really no need to remove the crank gear. I can't see why. So like as long as everything goes good with this, and you know I prove it works and all, then when I build that motor, we'll kind of do the same thing. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing timed up, and then probably bring my TIG welder up here. So I'll update you guys as I keep it. Alright, so I've got this thing timed, got the crank gear welded. So the pulley is meant to sit flush against the crank gear because it's all held together with basically the torque of the bolt. So I've kind of got it all measured and marked, if you can see it, as far back as it'll go. So that's right at 5/8 of an inch. So more or less, I can't really figure out a good way to cut it here with what I have. So I'm looking for someone right now that's got a lathe, and I was going to cut 5/8 off of the back of this crank pulley, and that should put me pretty well centered with my, like in the OEM location, because you got to take into account the crank sensor. So I don't want to have any issues with that. Also, belt routing. So I'm going to see if I can't get 5/8 of an inch removed off of that. That should give all. The only thing I've thought about now is there is no keyway or anything to hold the crank pulley in place. And if it's not, like, the weld is what's taking up the 5/8 inch. So, and it's kind of tapered, obviously. So what I was kind of worried about is if the crank doesn't sit, if it's not tightened down enough to more or less keep it from spinning, then yeah, you'll have issues with the crank sensor reading. You'll have issues with the accessory drive and all that belt slipping. So worst case, what I'm thinking is possibly if that does turn out to be a problem, I don't really want to weld the crank pulley to the crank, because if everything else goes well, I mean, this crank's fine to use again. I mean, aside from spinning a rod bearing or something. So if it comes to that, I may end up cutting a keyway in it just for the crank pulley. And I think, to me, I would have addressed kind of some of the pain points of this engine, in my opinion. I mean, obviously, it's stock rod, stock piston, so it's not going to make, you know, 600-700 horsepower. But I think at 400 or so, if I can make all this work, and then because I don't know if that crank gear was cast or not. At first, it kind of started welding funny, which I did preheat it and all that. But worst case is welding on it. If it got brittle, it breaks, something like that happens. I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm just kind of taking a chance here, but I got a couple extra engines, so whatever. I like learning this kind of stuff. And two, if it works, then any EcoBoost I build, I don't have to worry about spending $1,000 on a crank kit with a keyway cut in it. So, not quite as worried about cutting a keyway for the crank pulley, because it has nothing to do. But you can bolt it. It actually has a spot here to bolt it in place when you tighten it down. So more or less, is I could bolt it down and go ahead and mark and all that, and have it pretty much where it should be for a keyway. I just, when it comes to the gear and stuff, I don't have the machine, the equipment here to do that. It'd be cool if I did, and one day maybe I will. But for now, I try to do as much as I can on my own, because I don't really know anybody with, like machining equipment that I could just use. So trying to get into a machine shop and all that, it's just a big headache. So, for me, if the TIG weld holds up pretty well, I don't see a reason to worry about trying to have all that special stuff cut in. So it's just another little update on this thing. I don't know if I'll be updating anything else today, because I'm kind of stuck until I get that cut. I'm not really, like the angle grinder, I'd try it, but like I can't get it flush with it just because of how the pulley's made. So, I don't think I'm gonna do that. But if I do end up finding someone with a lathe or whatnot, I'll update you guys on that and talk to you later. So it hadn't been but probably 20 minutes since I recorded that last clip. I know I said I was gonna, but I said screw it. I got a couple extra crank pulleys too, so I went ahead and cut this down with an angle grinder and stuck it on the belt sander to get it all smooth. And this is right on the factory spot. I pulled this crank sensor, which is going to be hard to see. I pulled that crank sensor off of a 2.0 I have down there, and it all lines up well. I tightened that down, and I couldn't get it to spin with any amount of pressure I put on the pulley. Who knows when it's actually got an accessory drive belt on it. It may slip. For now, I'm going to put it together like this, and we'll see once I get the car running. But worst case scenario, as long as it starts up like this, even if it does flip, it's as simple as cutting a keyway and done. So as of right now, I'm going to put this motor together, the rest of the way as much as I can. And I'm going to go ahead and say that this, I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing so far. Again, if the crank sprocket, breaks or something from being heated by welding it, if it's cast, etc., we'll find out pretty soon. I say pretty soon. We'll find out pretty fast when it starts running. Go get on it a couple times, hit the rev limiter. We'll see. I mean, I do intend, like, as soon as I get it in there and running, I'm gonna go beat on it a little bit. Retard's calling me. Alright, so I just got back from Harbor Freight and Napa. What I ended up doing, I left it down there, but 3/16 key stock, and I bought a couple 3/16 carbide drill bits, and I literally drilled it right in the center of those two, like right there. So it basically self-centered between the two, and then I took a hand file, which is 3/16, and down. So in the future now, I think this is probably what I would have done instead of welding the crank gear, is bolt everything up and then drill through the crank gear, and then because like I can't get the crank gear off to hand file it. So I'm gonna run it like this, but in the future I think I may go ahead and cut the keyway first, then weld it up, as long as, you know, the weld holds and all that. Then maybe weld it up and then put a keyway in it. But for now, like, I think this is gonna work fine. I'm about to go ahead and button up the timing cover. And what I did is, the keyway fits in both pretty well, but I didn't make it fit perfect, which my thinking on that is, more or less, once I get the keyway, it'll start. I'm gonna tap it in with a hammer just so it's super snug, and then of course stick the bolt on it, and that's not gonna have any issues. It's just like an extra, the more I thought about it, it's just an extra layer of security, because the tone ring is there, and I didn't want any slippage or variation there, because like the car won't run. And this, you know, so might as well go ahead and do it now. I kind of just came up with this in my head, because I don't feel like waiting. B, some of the Woodruff tools are kind of expensive, and then even then, it would have only worked for the crank gear, or the harmonic balancer. Sorry, I still wouldn't have been able to do anything with a crank. Most of the time, people cut those with a mill with a crank out of the engine. So I think for like the sake of not taking an engine apart, or, you know, having to buy a $1,000 kit, I think this will work great. So I'm about to button this up and talk to you guys later.